of Lane. And after that, then I'll hand over to Chris, who is an admissions committee member from the Rotman School of Management, that's University of Toronto. So yeah, just a few guidelines to take note of during the session. Towards the end of the session, we're going to have a Q&A, which is just put your questions in the chat box, in the chat sections, and please ask questions that you typically cannot find on the school's website. So that means you should have done your research, or you still have some time to go through the website and ask questions that you need clarification on, or just things that are not easily gotten like online. Yeah, please feel free to turn on your cameras, and don't forget to remain muted so you don't distract everyone. And then also during the session, we're going to have an attendance form. Someone is going to drop it in the chat. So during the meeting, please fill the attendance form for any opportunities or networking opportunities that might, that you can benefit from even after the session. And once this meeting is done, the attendance form is going to be closed. So please make sure you do that while the session is ongoing. Yeah, so about Lane, City of Lane is a community of MBAs, basically a community of MBA alumni, MBA candidates, MBA applicants from Africa. And what we are doing is we try to leverage the power of community to open people to the world of possible suitable MBA programs. And our goal is to increase African representation in global MBA schools, right, across, America, Canada, Europe, and just all over the world. And every year, every application cycle, we curate a new class of people who are, qualified and looking to apply for the MBA program, and we give them the resources they need, provide them with the support they need through the MBA program. And then they have access to a community and support like throughout the program. We have several initiatives like the mentorship program, like this MBA for Africa series that we're having today, that basically gives you more information and also gives you the guidance you need, to go through the application process. And so far over the years, we've been able to get many of our members in admission, or we've been able to support them into getting into many schools all over the world. Many of the schools you can see on the screen, like Duke, Darden, Rice Business School, University of Pittsburgh, Terry, Georgia, and just many schools like that. And then about MBA for Africa series. MBA for Africa is a webinar series where we aim to bridge the gap between Africans, qualified Africans, and business schools, right? Because we understand there are many challenges with business schools actually getting access to, the right candidates from Africa. And so that's what this MBA for Africa webinar series is about. So we connect MBA applicants from Africa directly with, schools that we partner with, which are usually like top and global MBA programs. And today we have Rotman School of Management with us, which is the University of Toronto. So yes, usually we have this, for this year, the MBA for Africa session started in September, and it usually occurs like every weekends on Saturdays from September up until November, right? So we are going to have these sessions every Saturday, so you can have that on your calendar. That's 7 p.m. West African time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time, right? So every Saturday, just have it on your calendar. We'd have one session with a global MBA program. And so some of the things you can expect for most of the schools we bring on for the MBA for Africa series, usually their application fee waivers. You get the opportunity to meet with an admissions officer directly to ask your questions. You also get to learn from current African students, like we have today on the call. We have like about 3 or 4 current African students from Rotman. And then you get tips for your application. And also, Chris is going to be speaking about some of the reasons and benefits, advantages of, having your MBA program in Canada and in Rotman Business School today. So please prepare your questions around those areas. Yeah, and so today we're happy to have Chris Jones, who is the Assistant Director of Admissions, full-time MBA program at Rotman School of Management, which is the University of Toronto. Thank you for joining once again. And we also have Ajoke, we have Oyinye, we have Maurice, and we have Ayotunde, who are current MBA candidates. I believe that's second-year MBA candidates. And yeah, I know Ayotunde is also a mentor with City of Lane, right? Thank you so much for your contributions, and we're happy to have you on today's meeting. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a form to fill for the application fee waivers or any opportunities that might be available. So please feel free to just fill the form while you are on this session, because once the session is over, the form is going to be closed. So please make sure you do that as soon as possible. So yes, that's it. Thank you very much. So yeah, over to you, Chris. Please go ahead, introduce yourself, and then every other panelist can go ahead to introduce themselves, and we can take it up from there. Thank you. Oh, you're muted.
You see my presentation now?
Okay, yes.
You can see it? Okay. All right, there you go. Perfect, wonderful. Well, hi, everybody. As you can see from the screen, my name is Chris. I am the Assistant Director for Recruitment and Admissions for our full-time MBA program. I also look after all our executive MBA programs as well, but typically the audience I think today will be for our full-time MBA. So that's what we're going to focus on. I've been at Rotman now for many years, have experience working in corporate. So I worked for Deloitte for many years before coming to Rotman. I've also worked in career education as well in my time and now look after recruitment for all our professional MBA programs. I have had the pleasure of traveling to both Nigeria and Ghana a number of times in this role. So I've always enjoyed meeting candidates from this region, so happy to talk to you today about our program. What I'm going to do is get my colleagues to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about where they're from, their background, and perhaps you could tell us sort of what you did for your summer internship here as well. I think that would really help our audience. So I'm going to kind of just go around the slide here. So we'll start with Ajoke.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ajake Adekwaju. I'm from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. I did my degree. I have a degree in accounting. I'm a chartered accountant and a CFA charter holder. I had my experience in Nigeria in the bank. It was within a treasury function where I did a bit of asset and liability management. I also did sales and trading. And then here in Canada, I was opportune I did my internship in TD Securities, where was within the global markets function. And my major role was within structured notes, which was global equity derivatives. What I really enjoyed about this was because it was eye-opening for me, because this opportunity was something I never experienced in Nigeria. And being able to experience a more well-developed capital market here in Canada was one thing that I really enjoyed. Yeah, so outside of work and school, I love organizing games and social events. And here they call me Game Master, which is something I love to do a lot. Thank you.
All right, Ayo.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Ayo Ajayi. I'm also from Nigeria, Ondo State, Nigeria. Prior to now, I also worked in a bank. I worked as a product manager, started as a project manager, eventually transitioned to product manager. Then after working for a couple of years, at the bank, I moved to a communications company before, Rotman. During my summer, I also worked in a bank. I worked under the Technology Leadership Advancement Program, but specifically with the analytics and data governance team. It was also very eye-opening. Like Ajaka said, it's like a broader environment, understanding, using different tools and making a lot of sense of data. So it was a lot of eye-opening for me. Outside of school, profession, and career, you would find me, playing football. If not playing football, I'm, watching football, and yeah, or singing. Yeah, those are like my major activities outside of school and environment. Yeah, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, same. I'm same as Io. I'm like, I played football last night. I watched it this morning before going on this call. Because I'm actually from England. I'm actually not from Canada, but that's the great thing about Canada, right? We're all immigrants in this country. Okay, we'll go to Onyi.
Hi everyone, my name is Onyi and I am from Anambra State, Nigeria. Prior to my MBA, I have had a consulting career and also worked in a commercial bank at some point, mostly driving a lot of strategy consulting within Nigeria and Africa. So I was opportune this summer to work with Accenture, focused on more strategy work, especially for the healthcare sector. Quite different from my academic background in accounting, but it was quite eye-opening in terms of how healthcare business is run here in North America. Outside of work, I love photography. I am a professional photographer myself. I have shot a couple weddings and had a lot of fun shooting these events in Canada. So I'm really excited to be here to provide more information. Thanks, guys.
Okay, just seeing if Maurice has joined us.
Yeah, I'm here, Chris.
Okay, hey Maurice.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so my name is Maurice Onyekedi. I come from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm a second year MBA student here at Rotman. Prior to my MBA, I had a 5-year experience in financial services where I navigated roles in corporate banking, asset management, and pension funds, investment management. During the summer, I had the opportunity to have my internship at the Royal Bank of Canada in corporate finance. I basically continued within my career path, of course, which was my plan. And the goal for me was to continue doing banking in a more developed financial market like Canada's. So at the Royal Bank of Canada, I had the opportunity to contribute to the activities that supported a bigger balance sheet that I was used compared to what I was used to. So those were mostly my activities in the bank. And within Rotman, I'm the VP of industry coverage for the Rotman Finance Association, where I hope to give back to finance students who are looking to have a career in finance, and then within asset management as well, I'm the VP of development. Outside of work, school, I love football, or soccer as it is called here. Just like Ayo, we're actually teammates playing for the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto's intramural games. So I'm happy to meet you guys.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. There we go. So this is a very quickly sort of a agenda for today. We're going to go through this quite quickly because I know many of you may have lots of questions. So I think the way I like to look at it is I think we'll start sort of with University of Toronto in Canada and Toronto as a location as a sort of like start big picture for you all, because you may all be thinking of going to a different country to do your MBA internationally, and many of you may be focused on the US, of course, because it's a very attractive destination. That might look quite different next week, by the way. So let's see what happens, shall we? And or you may be looking at places like the UK, where I'm from as well. So there's lots of great places to consider to do a master's. But obviously, we're focusing in on University of Toronto in Canada. So obviously, we consider ourselves to be the best university in the country. And I think, we're regularly ranked in the top 20, top 25 universities globally. So I think if you're looking for ranking and reputation, U of T definitely has that. And I think those are all things that I think will happen if you're looking to take your career. Obviously, if you're looking to build a career here locally after you graduate, obviously that's super easy because it's U of T. But I also find that outside of Canada, U of T is typically the one school that everybody knows if you go to different countries. So you can really long term have a global career with a U of T education. And of course, one of the things I always think is really key is, in addition to the school you're going to study at, sometimes I'm always like, well, where are you going to live your life for a year, 2 years, possibly longer, right? Because you're going to be studying, but you're also going to be living somewhere, and you're going to have to say to yourself, where would I feel comfortable? Where's a place that I can fit in? Also somewhere that offers me excitement and lots of opportunities. And I like to think that Toronto is absolutely that place. I won't go through all the points on the slide here, but as you can see here, one thing I think it's always really to remember when I talk to students from your region is because we're in Canada and not in the US, people forget that actually there's only one financial center in the entire continent. New York, understandably, but no other American city is a bigger financial center than Toronto. With that also brings other opportunities. It's not just necessarily about banking, right? There are other opportunities that are connected back with being a large financial hub. And also the third largest tech sector, again, after New York and Silicon Valley, in all of North America. There are opportunities here if that's what's interests you. The other thing I love about Toronto, and hopefully my colleagues will agree with me, is we are an extremely diverse and multicultural city. So we like to think that everybody's welcome in Toronto. This is a complete melting pot of cultures. And I think we're a good example of where diversity, has worked really well. And diversity is something that we champion here in Canada, particularly in Toronto. And so, like I said, it's also known to be one of the most sort of livable cities in the world as well. So it's always very highly ranked as sort of places to live for safety, for standard of living. And I think that's something that also we're very proud of here in Toronto and Canada. It's a very safe place to live as well. Okay, so what's also really interesting is we're a downtown school and a downtown campus. So this kind of is like a nice little snapshot of where we are in relation to the downtown core. So I always say to candidates, if you're looking to come to somewhere and maybe spend some time living there, you can move once to Toronto and you don't need to move again after you graduate. Moving also is a hassle and costs money. So I think it's the idea of you make one move to come to Rotman and all the opportunities are right on your doorstep. So this kind of gives you a kind of an easy sort of visual of where we are in relation to the downtown core, right? And where you can access a lot of opportunities. Again, I think I've talked a little bit about the idea that we like to think that Canada and Toronto, we use the phrase "you belong here." So again, inclusive, multicultural society. And I think there's just lots of really great things to do and celebrate when you come to Toronto, right? So always think of what else is the location you're giving you and the country that's going to give you in addition to the education. I always think is so, so crucial to your decision making, right? And we can talk a little bit more about some of the other benefits of coming to Canada from a work and visa standpoint. What I'm going to do quickly now is, rather than me tell you this, but obviously it's coming from someone who was also effectively an immigrant to Canada and never went back to the UK permanently, I'd like to ask some of my colleagues. So, Onyi, is there any sort of what was your sort of motivation for picking Canada and picking Toronto when you were sort of eyeing up lots of different MBA opportunities? Are you on mute, aren't you?
Okay, great. So for me, my career life was in Lagos, which was quite a busy city in Nigeria. And I liked the hustle and bustle of Lagos. So when it came to picking out a city in Canada, Toronto was easy because it felt like the closest to that hustle and bustle. And because I feel like I'm hugely entrepreneurial and hugely a consultant, I needed a space where I could find the hub of the both of those lives in the city, and Toronto provided me that. But why Canada boils down to more in the sense that I needed a country where I would come into and not feel alone there. So I needed to make sure that where I come into a country, I feel like I can see people that look like me, speak like me, and act like me there. I wanted to also see people who were different. So I didn't want to be or myself and my people be the only difference in the country, pretty much. So Canada provided me a lot of multiculturalism, which was great. Also, I needed a country where I was sure that it was going to be an easier migration to become a permanent resident in that country once I was done with my MBA. I compared the track to citizenship with the United States and the United Kingdom at the time. And Canada provided a much more easier route to that, which was pretty much the reason I came to Canada. Thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so like I said, we'll go through some more information now about U of T. So obviously, lots of great rankings with regards to our research and our faculty and industry leaders. So thinking about, who you are going to learn from and the people that you're going to be your peers, as well as academics, but also connections back to the business world. So we really do believe that, in addition, our reputation comes with for a reason, and that's based on, being ranked as one of the world's top research schools, but also the fact that we partner with industry leaders, government agencies, and also lots of not-for-profit organizations to help generate insights, and that can inform some of the curriculum that we're always looking to redevelop and keep relative to what's going on in the world in 2024. We also have, lots of research and education centers that can enrich your MBA experience. So gender in the economy. I don't know if Onyi or Ajoke, have you done anything with GATE at all?
No, I haven't, but a friend has, and was quite an enriching experience for her. She mentioned a fellowship which
Yeah.
she have with GATE, got some funding as well. So yeah, great experience from her own perspective.
Yeah, so as you can see, this is focused on gender inequalities and how they can be remedied. So it's very much focused on women in business. So we have a lot of opportunities for our female students to take on research projects in their second year with this educational center, and you get paid for it. And again, you can see we have other educational centers focused on healthcare strategy, as well as real estate and urban economics. So one of the things that I think is a really great component to our MBA program is entrepreneurship. So this is an MBA that has a very, very distinct focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. And so with that is through our CDL. So we help to kind of bring ventures together with mentors, with venture capitalists, in order to try and help them bring ideas that they may have to market or to scale up an idea massively. And you can see some of the streams that we advise and work with: AI, agriculture, blockchain, climate, fintech, a wide range of ventures. Now, they're not necessarily student ventures from Rotman, they're coming from all over the world to be part of this. But our students, if you take an elective in our second year, called the CDL Advanced course, you have an opportunity to spend 9 months working with one of the ventures that's going through this program, and opportunities to sort of get involved in some of our pitch days where they can pitch to venture capitalists, to see if their ideas have a chance of being sort of brought to market. Sometimes it might be something that you will never see in a store or in e-commerce. It could be, a component, a part that's used in space. But again, it could be used on a massive scale for all space exploration equipment. So it kind of gives you a sense of what we're doing, but you to have worked in these streams to get involved in our CDL course. It's really for people who either have a passion for entrepreneurship or maybe have done something themselves. I know previously we've had students from Nigeria and Ghana go through this program. And I had one guy, he did hair braids. That was his business. We've had someone else who sold running shoes, sneakers. That was his own business. So again, we've had people work in beauty products as well. If you're an entrepreneur, you've done anything entrepreneurial, this is obviously a great stream that you can focus in on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now about, we talked about diversity. We like to think that Rotman also represents the diversity of our city and our country. So we like to think across all our 9 graduate programs, we have over 60 plus nationalities at Rotman, and we have around over 850 MBA students on campus at could be any one time. So that would be you've got your first year class, your second year class, and then you've got your morning and evening MBAs. Those are our local part-time students who are living and working in Toronto. And that's a big opportunity for you to network, right? And get to know a lot of people, right? There's a huge global and local network of Rotman students and alumni in this city. And that's a key component of the experience. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, what we can offer you outside of just, the classroom. And we'll talk about some of the academics in a bit, but let's talk about things you can do outside of the classroom. So Io and Maurice, I'm glad that the Rotman football team is going again. I think that's sort of during COVID that they didn't have that team, but that's an extracurricular you guys alluded to. But we also talked about the RFA, Maurice. So maybe this is an opportunity for you to talk about this slide and tell us, Maurice, a little bit about how students can get involved in student clubs and extracurricular activities, and kind of what are the benefits to our students?
Yeah, I think I can take this one. So, in terms of like student clubs, they provide solid opportunities for students to get exposed to the career path that they want to. They get the opportunity to learn from upper year students who have experienced the same pathway. They get a lot of resources in terms of like various individuals, be it upper year who were successful in any sort of company or industry you want to go to, or alumni. There are those resources that they provide that you can speak to and try to understand the pathway. So for example, the Rotman Finance Association was a big help to me when I initially came in, because I was clear that I wanted to continue in finance. I was clear of the sector area of finance that I wanted to continue in. And good thing was that I had a lot of resources. I had students who were successful in that pathway. I had the alumni, so I interacted with them. And for someone coming all the way from Nigeria, I needed to understand what the financial market was like in Canada. So there was that opportunity to participate in activities that helped me understand what the market was like. There were case competitions where we would like solve real life problems, for like a Canadian business, right? For example, mergers and acquisition, you have maybe a large Canadian company trying to acquire another Canadian company. And then we had the opportunity to carry out valuations, carry out financial models. And even for those who don't have finance background that want to pivot to finance, it was a great opportunity for them to work with other students who are solid in finance and get the opportunity to learn. These clubs also provide resources that prepare you for interviews. Part of a project I'm working on now is updating a Bible that has sample interview questions and answers for like those who want to go into the buy side. I mean, it's my way of giving back, because last year, I was in a shoe where I was looking for internship, and these resources that were provided by these clubs was very helpful for me. Before my interviews, I already had an idea of the sort of questions to expect, how to answer such questions. So it was really helpful. And not just that, the clubs provide resources in terms of those that already work there. So I could interact with them, understand what their journey was like. One final thing to mention was that these clubs, the sort of like support they provide to you go beyond the MBA program itself, because where you have a large alumni base, Rotman, as Chris alluded to, one of the top, if not the best, business school in Canada, large alumni base that I could speak to. Rotman has one of the largest alumni base in terms of like those who have passed through the program and are successful in different career paths. So even after the program, you have the opportunity to interact with them, solve problems together, get an idea on how to tackle different projects. And I'll just relate this to my internship experience, because I mean, that's a issue I will find myself in when I'm already working full time. I had projects that I was working on. And the good thing about the financial sector in Toronto, right, is that similar to Canada, the US, where you have a Wall Street and you have all of the financial institutions just close to each other. Canada has our own Wall Street. We call it Bay Street. So we have TD, we have RBC. They're all just close to each other. We could walk to different offices. I could put a call across one of the alumni who I know is doing the same thing in a different bank, and oh, let's meet for lunch. I have this project. I know you had this role. Advise me how to go about that. How do you guys do it? And we share ideas. And the good thing is that the alumni are always happy to help. Most of the alumni that I reached out to, they were always happy to help. Once they check, oh, it's Rotman, they're always happy to help. So these clubs provide this sort of support. Aside from the career clubs, there are also like the cultural clubs. We have the Ragback. AJ could speak to it. AJ is like our events VP on the Ragback, and these are sort of clubs that provide us access to community. We have Nigerians, Ghanaians, we have people from different African countries, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe. We have Black like us in the Caribbean, and it's easy for us to interact. It's easy for us to connect. This morning, I had to leave everything I was doing just 1 hour before a call. One of the Ragback first team members reached out to me that, she wanted to connect to know how to navigate a case competition just because of that connection. Knowing the background where we came from, it was easy for me to leave everything I was doing to assist her. So these are sort of support you get from these clubs. I will leave it at that.
Right, Io, can you just quickly, could you just clarify to our audience what Ragback is? Thanks, Maurice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ragback is the African and Caribbean club. It's a society for African and the Caribbean society here in Canada. Like Maurice had earlier mentioned, we have several people from different nationalities that, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Zimbabwean, Jamaican, Ethiopian, you name it. And it's like an exclusive space for people of similar culture, people of similar nationalities, where you can sort of relate together, share your experience, share what you're feeling at the moment, share and link with people that can help you. It could be people of the same background. It could even be people that don't necessarily have the same background, but have gone through what you presently feeling right now. So in terms of case competition, in terms of internship search, in terms of full-time job search, just you name it, you find that environment where you can basically meet people that you can ask questions, people that can guide you, people that can show you the way because they've been through it, right? So that's like an exclusive environment for people. So you find people in all of these different clubs, like people in the BTA, people in the BDC, people in MCA, also being in that Ragback, because the fact that you are in a club doesn't necessarily restrict you to another, like that you can't join another club. So you still have access to several clubs. However, being of the same nationality, being of the same background, being of the same color, it just helps you to find your own people that can give you a much needed guidance. So that's what I can say to Ragback.
Yeah, thanks. I know you have good social events too. Okay, Io, don't hide the social events. You have fun. I've seen your Instagram posts. You have good parties too.
Okay,
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a VP of events, I make sure that we have events that are so fun, because you don't want to be bored when you're also learning. You want to have that social life still intact. And that's what Ragback tried to make you enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, for Toronto as a city, the city is very diverse, a big multicultural city. You don't have to restrict yourself to just the Black community. For some people that like to learn a thing or two about different cultures, you can join different cultural clubs of different cultures. We have an Indian in our club who is interested about learning about Africa. He was in our party. Yes, last night we had like a Diwali festival, which is an Indian festival. We're all there to participate socially. You have Canadians, you have those from South America, North America, all there to support our Indian classmates, learn about the Indian community, try their food. So it was just that opportunity for us to like interact socially and learn something about a different culture. So I mean, Rotman provides all of that, and being in a multicultural city like Toronto, Rotman would help you, you know, in terms of like understanding the cultures of different people as you interact in the city.
Okay. All right, great. So conscious of the time we have, let's just move on. So one of the things, and we'll get more into sort of the MBA program now. One of the things I think is really key is to understand, you know, what are you looking to get from a graduate program, right? What is important to you? And I would also argue what is important to employers, right, when they're hiring MBAs. And I think obviously the academic rigor of our program and the courses that you learn, and maybe some of the technical skills that you'll learn that could be new to you, very important. Don't, you know, that's obviously a key component. But I think sort of the idea of what we call experiential learning at Rotman is really key. And one of the programs that we offer that we think is very unique to any MBA program across North America is our self-development lab. So this is an idea of focusing on your personal and your professional development to kind of maximize your potential, but also to help you become more effective with presentations, making, you know, being able to work better within teams. But I think more importantly, developing skills that could make you a more effective leader as you go to the next stage of your career. Because certainly in Canada, and I would certainly say from my time living and working in England, is that when we hire MBAs, and when I hired MBAs at Deloitte, we had an expectation that we are hiring an MBA and paying an MBA because they have potential future leadership. You know, that's what we're there for, right? You're going to be managing people, leading projects. So a lot of that comes down to soft skills as much as technical skills. So we do a great job, I think, of helping develop those skills that are going to enable you to be immediately effective in a job interview, but then you can take that into the workplace when you graduate. I know one of my colleagues has taken the SDL and is now doing the advanced course, which is called the Leadership Development course. It was either Ajoki or Onya, I'm not sure.
Well, I didn't do the leadership development
Okay.
program. However, I have someone who did, and they
Right.
had a big retreat, and it was fun and great, and how to manage teams. So I know his experience was good. I can say that for sure.
Yeah. I think most of you have done SDL though, right?
Yeah, you get to do it with your teammates because Rodman gives you like an academic team where you can attend the self-development lab to be able to communicate with your team members and learn how to present, how to communicate effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, just to
Okay.
chip in. And the good thing about that is, you know, you can meet any of the, you know, professors within the SDL. I've gone there a couple of times just basically to work on. It could be on your communication skills, it could be your interpersonal skills. They're ready to meet with you, they schedule a time with you, basically to help you on not just your professional, you know, development, also the personal development angle. And that is, you know, pretty much important in the MBA program.
So one of the things we're also going to talk about is career services. So as you can see, all of my colleagues here had summer internships. So one of the things to remember about our full-time MBA program, it's a 2-year program. And so effectively you would spend, well, it's like 20 months of studying. You'd effectively spend, every year our entry point is August. So you would need to be in Canada for early August for orientation, mid-August, and then the academics start in September. And you spend your first 9 months in a core curriculum. So all first years follow exactly the same timetable and take some core MBA courses. And then during the course of the first year, you can begin applying for a summer internship. So our program requires our students to complete an internship, which can be up to 4 months in length. And the idea is you're either not studying or you're doing, you know, what minimal courses you guys can when you're doing your internship. So the idea is you're working full time, and that's your focus. And obviously you get paid for it. So remember that. So there is an opportunity to make money halfway through our program. But in order for you to get your internship, you know, you need good support. You need career services. And we offer, obviously, every student has a personal career coach. That's a job I used to have at Rotman. So working with students to, help them with everything from, the basics of like a resume and cover letter to job preparation, practice interviews, even looking at areas of like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Really trying to understand what are you passionate about? Because you may think that you want to do some kind of career, but really, are you doing it because you think you should do it? Or should you be doing something that you're more passionate about, right? So uncovering those for you that you may not have thought about. And as you can see here on the slide, I won't go through everything. It gives you a sense of what we offer. In addition to the coaching team, we have an industry advisor team who are like a business development team, and they work with employers constantly. That is their job, is to bring employers to campus, make sure they're posting jobs with us, and obviously ultimately hiring our students and graduates. Now, I'd love to ask, I guess, Io or Ajoke, you haven't spoken too much yet. Is there anything you'd like to share with the team around, I think some anxiety of being an international student and coming to Canada? Is it harder for international students? And then the idea of the support that you've got at Rotman.
Okay, so for me,
Yeah.
coming into Canada, I was anxious about me getting a job. I was like, I have experience in less
Mhm.
developed capital markets, and now I'm coming to a more developed capital market. How am I going to cope? Will I even get an internship? Will I even get a job? So I was really anxious about that. And thanks to Rodman, you have a career coach that is going to help you to restructure your resume to the job application that you want to apply for. So first thing first, when I met with my career coach, I felt relaxed. And then it's not always very formal. You're very able to express yourself, what you're going through, and then it can be able to help you. I remember I had one interview and I went to meet my career coach, like, I don't even know what to prepare for. How can I go about this? And she was like, okay, practice this. These are the six teams for you to practice with. Have a story for each. So Rotman gives you that opportunity, gives you all the resources to be able to make sure that you excel. And that's what the career coach will do for you. And also during my internship, you have like an internship advisor that will tell you what to do during your internship. For me, one thing for me was culture shock too, because in Nigeria, we don't do a lot of networking. And here you really have to network so you can be able to grow your network here. And here, Rotman has taught me how to be able to network properly. And with the internship advisor, it tells you try to have coffee chats at least twice a week, know what to do. Like, you have your experience in Nigeria, but this is a different environment entirely. And Rodman is going to help you to know what to do and at the right time. So apart from internship advisor, you have a career coach, and then you have weekly job listings. There's something they call Our Career, where you can tailor the Our Career applications to where you want the field you want to grow in Canada. And then you have weekly job listings where you can apply for job opportunities. So this has been really helpful for me, and thank God I got an internship, and then I'm also going back I got a return offer. So all my anxiety, finally everything has worked well for me, and with the help of Rotman. Thanks to that.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, like I said, while, we can't, no one, we can never guarantee anything in life. I would say, based on your guys' experience, my experience of working with students from your region, our students from Africa tend to do pretty well in the job market. And we haven't had too many challenges with placements and opportunities. So again, we're a very diverse city. The chances are you're likely to be, your hiring manager is probably originally from a different country. So, what you don't have, of course, it will always exist to some extent. Some people may prefer people with Canadian backgrounds or education, but typically the Rotman brand is going to open those doors for you that make it a lot easier. And again, a lot of openness because of the diversity of our workforce here to people with international backgrounds. That was me also when I came to Canada. So one of the things I think is also so important about coming to Canada is the opportunity to live and work here without any restrictions, which I still think sets Canada apart from so many other parts of the world. So I think as Onyi or Ajoke mentioned at the very beginning, people, people come to Canada because as long as you graduate from our program, right, complete the course, you're eligible for a 3-year Canadian work permit, which is open. So you do not need companies to sponsor you during those 3 years. You can chop and change jobs as much as you like. And within the course of those 3 years, and some people certainly, I would encourage you to start doing it in the first year after you graduate, is you can begin the process of applying for permanent residency. And typically, although I'm not an immigration advisor, the pathway is relatively straightforward because you've got a graduate degree from the University of Toronto, and you're already working in a professional job at the time of applying. So, you tend to be, it's relatively straightforward, and you will certainly have sort of the points, required to turn your postgraduate work permit into permanent residency should you choose to stay longer than the 3 years, right? That's depending on your choice and what you want to do. So, there has been some noise in the media recently about Canada cutting back its immigration and permanent residence. What I would say is, while that has happened, I think what we're seeing is maybe more of a course correction back to the numbers that we were bringing in before COVID-19. So during COVID-19, actually, Canada increased its immigration numbers. But really, it's a little bit more of a course correction. So we're really just sort of going back to numbers that we saw pre-2020, which, again, having worked at Rotman pre-2020, none of our graduates coming from out of our Rotman programs were having any problems with their permanent residency or accessing student visas. So again, because you're in a graduate program, you are at the University of Toronto. There has really been there's going to be no change for candidates like yourself. But we do also provide immigration advice when you're going through the application or the enrollment process, and we have an immigration team here at the University of Toronto that can help you prepare your documents for your study permit as well. Okay, so a lot of assistance as well if you have anxieties about getting a study permit. Okay, some of the companies that recruit here, some you'll be familiar with, others are more Canadian. So one thing I think, and my colleagues generally work in finance here, is some of those big American brand names, BlackRock, I don't know, I'm not a finance person, but they have quite small operations in Canada, and the Canadian banks typically dominate our financial services here, because obviously in Canada we're quite protective of our own companies, so you won't see too many of those big American brand names. But typically, as our colleagues have said, the kind of work you're looking to do, you can absolutely get that. These Canadian banks still have global reach, right? I do know that many of them have offices in New York, and certainly there's a huge Royal Bank Tower in London that I walk past every time I go home to visit. Okay, so let's actually talk a little bit about the MBA academics. We haven't really got into that, and I'm going to go through this quite quickly because really, I'm sure people want to know about the admissions and how to get in. So one of the things I alluded to in the 2-year program, the first year you will basically do what we call the MBA sort of fundamentals. Everyone follows the same timetable, and you will effectively all do the same courses. So you're going to do, those MBA fundamentals: accounting, statistics, economics, operations, marketing. Probably courses that you'll do in any MBA program, whichever you pick, which are kind of the bedrock courses that you need to have. When you get to the second year of our program, you're just picking electives, right? So you can customize your MBA and your MBA experience, and all my colleagues here will hopefully have customized and picked the courses that we have. Although we don't consider ourselves a specialized program, and we are not a specialized program, you're coming here because you're looking to get a broad management education. We do have something called emphases. So it's like if you want to kind of gain some experience or expertise in one particular sector, we would recommend courses that you can take in one of these 10 emphases, right? Let me ask any of my colleagues, have any of you picked an emphasis at all? Or are you just sort of picking courses that interest you? Io.
Yeah, I've picked an emphasis. I'm focusing on leadership and strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing for my elective courses now.
All right. What about Onyi?
Okay, so my emphasis is innovation, entrepreneurship, and business design. Just one emphasis for myself because I'd say I'm pretty honed in on that space. So that's just it.
Maurice?
Yeah, so my emphasis is finance and leadership.
Okay, great. And finally, Ajoke.
My emphasis is in finance. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, Ajoke, within that finance emphasis, if you say you really want to take a marketing course or a business design course, are you still able to pick the odd elective that isn't finance, right, to give you flexibility?
Of course, so for you to have an
Mm.
emphasis, you have to do two main finance courses and then three supplemental courses. So because you have to do about 12 electives, so you can still do any other course you choose to do and still get your emphasis. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that with us. All right, so here's one of our recent alum who I admitted back, I think in 2021. Um, so Doton, she features on all our brochures. So one thing you should guys remember is all our marketing material, typically the poster child for all our marketing material that goes out across Canada and across the world is a Nigerian. So I think that's something that is pretty amazing. So as you can see here, Doton had a legal background in Nigeria and now works for McKinsey. And you'll often see her coming back to campus to do events. I'm sure you guys have done things with Doton before. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
So it just gives you a sense of, these are African students coming to Canada and competing and winning jobs at the big companies and beating Canadians. I don't like using the word beating Canadians, but they are outperforming our local CAT students to get these top jobs. And it's proof that if you come to Canada as someone from Africa, as my colleagues have highlighted here, with the great jobs they've had in consulting and banking, you can also do it as well, right? And just remember that we have many students from Africa who are working in technology, they're working in marketing, e-commerce, right? It's not just banking and consulting, right? We offer a wide range of opportunities, and many of our students from Africa are working in a wide range of roles. So don't feel restricted just because our colleagues here have a consulting finance. I know IO is more tech, so that's a good example of some of the diversity of skills here. All right, so finally, I feel like this is what we advertised to you, and now I'm like 50 minutes in and just getting to it. But this kind of the boring stuff. So hopefully you're all feeling very energized, and now you're like, okay, I really want to come to Canada. I want to come to Toronto, and I'm going to apply to Rotman, right? So here is kind of the information that I think you may have lots of questions about, and I think hopefully, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm happy to stay on the call over an hour if people want to. Not sure about my colleagues. So let's just go through the requirements. First thing to remember is that, yeah, we are admissions has now started. So it is an open application. So you're welcome to submit your application at any time. Our program starts in mid-August, so my recommendation to all of you, if you're still not sure and you're still contemplating an application, I would look at our January the 15th deadline, which is round two. Would really recommend that you meet that deadline if you're really serious about coming to Canada. Once you've been through the admissions process, you really still need to give yourself 5 to 6 months finances in order and get your study permit, right? So we wouldn't recommend applications too much later than January the 15th. So that gives you a sense of the sort of lines. You've got about 2.5 months. So obviously you have to have a bachelor's degree with a minimum of 3.0 GPA in your final year of study. So we only look at the final year of your transcripts. We try not to look and judge things you did when you were 18 or straight out of high school, right? A 3.0 GPA is kind of like a B plus average, right, in your final year. I would say any Africa who has a 2.1 degree, which is this, you have the same scoring system as we do in the UK, that would put you in a good position to apply for our program. We do look for minimum of 2 years work experience. I would encourage you to apply with at least three. And I would say most of our students from this part of the world have between 5 and maybe 10 years work experience. But 2 years is the minimum. We require 2 references, so just need 2 people that you work with or have worked with recently if you've changed jobs. Someone where there was a supervisory relationship, so it doesn't have to be the CEO of your company. It could just be an immediate manager. And actually, it's great for Rotman. You just simply put in their email addresses into the application. They get sent an email with an online survey, which all of us know how to do now. They fill out the survey, they hit submit, the references come back to your application. So it's really easy. They don't have to write letters for you. Some of you, I doubt any of you, unless people are here from places like Cote d'Ivoire or Cameroon, where French is a more commonly spoken language. I've never asked anyone from Ghana, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, for example, to write a TOEFL. So you probably don't need to write them. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Then, of course, we get into the dreaded GMAT or GRE, right? So I'm going to ask anyone on the panel here. Who of you here did the GRE or the GMAT?
I did a GRE.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. So IO, and what would your advice be to those people studying for or writing a GRE?
I would say, put a lot of, study hard, like put a lot of focus on, GRE, try as much as possible to get your score to the as high as possible. It gives your admission application a lot of strength. Of course, that's not the only criteria that is being looked at. There are several other applications, there are several other criteria that has been looked at, but it just gives you that leverage. It gives you a lot of strength. So you still have a lot of time. I think the next application deadline is January 15th. So you have not so much time, but at the same time, you still have some time to put in that hard work, put in that study time to get as high as score as you can get. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, we do have some exemptions. Jokey, I think you had a GMAT or GRE exemption. Is that right? What was that for again?
Yeah, so I already concluded my CFA
Mhm.
before Rotman, so I got that exemption. So I didn't have to do GMAT or GRE.
Yeah. Maurice, did you have an exemption, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, similar to Ajoke, I had my CFA, so I used
Yeah.
that.
Okay. And Onyi, did you have any exemptions?
No, I wrote my GRE, so no
Oh,
exemption.
okay. So as you can see here, we've got a mixed bag, right, of experiences. Most common designation that we get exemptions for from Nigeria, Ghana, for example, which I think most people here is the CFA. So again, as long as you have a CFA 2, you don't even need to be a charter holder. A CFA 2 would waive the GMAT or the GRE. No doubt, if you've got the level 3 or you're a charter holder, it does make your application a little stronger, so that could improve scholarship opportunities. Yeah, the chartered accountant is a tricky one, I think, for most of you, because it's the one from Nigeria and Ghana. I think only Zimbabwe is the only one that's recognized in Canada. I don't make the rules. Sorry, guys. Even if you've got a CPA or an ACCA, you will have to write a GMAT or a GRE. But understand that your ACCA or your CPA designation will still help with scholarship opportunities, right? So even though you've written the GRE or the GMAT, that's still going to give you a much stronger application. So, it's still important to us. It just unfortunately doesn't waive it. I think if any of you have a PEng or you're an actuary that waives it, and I don't think anyone here on the call will have done their undergrad at U of T. Generally we find it's the CFA 1, CFA 2 or 3 is the key one that will waive the GMAT for Africa. But again, you can always talk to us. You can always have conversations with us about that. So people often say, what's the average GMAT GRE score? I bet you that's a question in the chat. Average GRE score is around a 320. I would encourage you to be obviously trying to score higher than that. But a 320 certainly opens doors for you, can open doors for scholarships as well. If any of you are writing a GMAT, it's around anywhere between sort of a 615 and a 645 because we're in this sort of new GMAT model now where the scoring has changed. So the scoring skews lower. So that kind of gives you a sense of average scores there. Okay, so that's kind of the key component for getting in, right? How to, how to have a great application. It's kind of following some of these components, right? It's having some good work experience. It's maybe waiting, right, until you feel you're ready, right? 3, 5, 6, 7 years work experience is going to give you more on your resume. It's going to maybe make you a stronger applicant than if you're trying to apply with only 2 years work experience. Scholarships at Rotman are basically going to be based on merit and the strength of your application. So, you just simply have to apply to Rotman. There's no separate application for scholarships. You simply apply, and we will award scholarships based on your undergraduate transcripts, your GMAT, GRE, or if you have a waiver, or if you have additional qualifications, right? Any additional qualifications are still valuable, even if they're not waived. If they don't waive the GMAT, they can still have value. And then there would be your references. There's an admissions essay that you write, which is very short. And then obviously there's an admissions interview that you'd have with one of our admissions teams. So communication and presence and professionalism is also really, really key to help with scholarship opportunities. And then, what I would say for financing, and this is probably the trickiest subject, but I will hopefully my colleagues will be willing to share some of how they manage to work through their finances, because I think that's going to be a lot of the questions that we have is, I would always say to any candidate coming from outside of Canada, the program is quite expensive. It is approximately $140,000 Canadian. So remember, Canadian dollars, not US dollars you're paying here, which seems a lot, but when you compare it to some of the tuition in US schools, it's expensive. I'm not going to lie, but it's a little more reasonable than some of the tuition that some US schools will charge. So that's the cost, and hopefully our scholarships can reduce the tuition. So that's how you would see your scholarship. It would be a tuition reduction. You get half of it in the first year, half in the second year, because you make 2 tuition payments, right? One in the first year, one in the second year. But we also work with some financing organizations. Empower and Prodigy are probably the most common, I would say, that students from this region use to help with any shortfall that you have. So make no excuses, it is expensive to come to grad school. And we're very honest about what we can and what we can't offer. But like I said, the upside is the ability to work here for your internship. You can also work part-time in your second year if you feel you have the flexibility to do that. There are some jobs on campus. Are any of my colleagues doing any campus jobs, or do you know people who are doing like TAing or
So,
anything like
okay.
that?
So for me, I'm currently a TA for accounting course. I get paid for that. Yeah. And it's also very flexible.
Yeah. Is anyone here willing to sort of share their without disclosing the numbers, your sort of financial journey on sort of making it work for you, and any advice you would give to our audience? Because this is obviously going to be a key question. This is why I'm addressing it at the end.
Yeah, I can take this. In terms of financing, Rotman is generous with scholarship. So I got a decent scholarship from Rotman to finance part of my studies, and I had the opportunity to depend on international student loan providers like Empower and Prodigy Finance to provide financing for the remainder. And there's just an alternative, although rare. Chris, you don't have it on this slide, but I think I should mention it because I had the opportunity to explore that. There's the Rotman student loan program with 2 of the local banks, RBC and BMO. How it works is that it's an unsecured loan given by these banks. And of course, the attraction is that the interest rate is far lower than the international student loans. But if you have, because I know coming from Nigeria, it's not uncommon to have people that are already in Canada who already have permanent residence and have stayed there for 5 years, 6 years, or already citizens. So if you have any of those people who are willing to come in and be a shorty for you, that facility is available. So that's just a third alternative. If you have like a sibling or a friend who is happy to be a co-signer, that's also available. In my case, I used Empower because I don't have that resources, but it's an option if you have that resources.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that, and thanks, Joki, for sharing the opportunity to work in the second year, right? First year is quite intense. Would you agree that we do not recommend, and in fact, I think we don't even allow even our local students to work in first year, right? So, because it's quite an intense experience, you definitely have to be prepared to have the finances for the first 9 months before you hopefully start your internship. Now, speaking of what I wanted to do, that's it. I know that took an hour and longer, but I'm happy to stay and answer questions. If our moderator here wants to throw any questions at us. But what I will do is I'll leave this slide up because what you've got here is my email address, or you've got a QR code here that you can maybe you can scan even on your phones now and right in front of your screens, which would allow you to book a pre-application meeting with us. And send us your resume, of course, because we do like to look at your resume to see if you're eligible, and then we can set up one-on-one calls just like this through Zoom or Microsoft Teams to have chats with you. I think I spoke to all of my colleagues one-on-one through the process and help them through it, if I remember rightly. So we're always here to help you with your own personal questions and questions about your own personal profile that you wouldn't want to share on a big call like this, but also my email address is there as well. But if you do email me looking for to connect with Rotman, please send me your resume. Okay, so that would be my only ask is I need to see your resume. And then we can respond. But I think the QR code will take you through the process that we recommend all people do, which is setting up a profile with us and requesting a one-on-one conversation. So we're here to help you one-on-one, absolutely at Rotman.
All
Okay,
right.
I'm done.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was a very elaborate session. And thanks everyone, to the current students for sharing their experiences. Really appreciate you. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here, and so that we don't skip some or miss out on some. So I'm just going to read out a few. And then if you have questions and you want to unmute yourself and go ahead to ask, please just indicate by raising your hands. So as we go on, I'll just ask you to unmute yourself, but just keep your hands raised. Yeah, so the first question here is the person is asking, are there any scholarship opportunities at Rotman? You already talked about that. And also, is the MBA STEM designated? And the person said, apologies, I joined late. So, yeah, I think the person wants to know if the MBA program, I'm guessing the full-time MBA program is STEM designated.
No, I don't think it is. Because it doesn't really need to be when you're in Canada, because again, I know that's a US thing, right? If you have the STEM designation, it can help you stay longer, but that's not an issue in Canada, right? You don't have to have STEM to be able to live and work here without any restrictions. So we're not a STEM designated school, but again, that's not really relevant in Canada. So remember, you're coming to a completely different country. Yeah.
All
We
right.
do have some STEM designated graduate programs. But those would be our graduate program in Masters of Management and Analytics is a STEM designation program. That's a 1-year program that we offer as a graduate program. So some programs in Canada will be, and obviously we have tons of undergraduate programs that are STEM designated, but the MBA isn't. No. But don't worry about it. You don't need it here in
It's not
Canada.
a problem.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so the next one, someone says, for someone interested in venture capital and entertainment, how can Rotman help me make this transition? So I don't know if the person is interested in venture capital or entertainment, but maybe you can touch on both. How can Rotman help make the transition?
Maybe I can take this. For venture capital, VC is something similar to private equity. There are clubs available to help you to make that transition to pivot. There's the Rotman Asset Management Association. We have industries that have gone through the route, and so we have alumni that have gone through the route in the industry, and they're happy to provide guidance. We have the Management Consulting Association for those who have business like mind, and that's a club that can also provide such resources. So we have clubs that will help you to pivot, regardless of the industry you are looking to pivot to. It doesn't have to be VC, whatever industry you're looking to pivot to. We always have those clubs that can provide resources and support for you.
All right, great. I hope that answers the question. Thank you, Maurice, for that. Yes, so the next one, I know you touched on taking, I think, emphasis in when you're selecting your courses. So this person is asking, is it possible to take multiple emphasis?
Yeah, of course you can. So like I mentioned before, you are to take about 12 electives, and for you to have an emphasis, you need to do 2 main courses and 3 supplemental courses. And what is interesting about it is that a main course in finance can be a supplemental course in strategy. So you're able to like do both finance, strategy, and leadership if you're able to select your courses. And what Rotman does for you is to tell you all the courses, and then you're able to select in advance. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Thank you, Ajoke. All right. So yeah, this person is asking, is it possible to get GRE waiver if one has ACCA? So I know Ajoke mentioned the CFA that helped her get the waiver. Okay, so this person is asking about ACCA. Is it possible?
No, unfortunately, again, no. It's one of those weird areas where it's about how these designations are recognized in globally or within Canada, right? So if you do the ACC, and again, I am not an accounting expert here. I've worked in recruitment and human resources all my life. But that it doesn't waive it, unfortunately. The only thing that's going to waive the GRE is the CFA, I would say, from candidates from West Africa, unless any of you are calling in from Zimbabwe, where I believe, interestingly, your CPA is accredited in Canada. So I don't want to get into sort of the details, but unfortunately, you would still have to write the GRE. However, as I said, even if you write the GRE, your ACCA will still have very high value as you go through the admissions process. So it's still going to give you, almost like it's going to give you points towards scholarship opportunities, even if it doesn't waive the GRE. So we value it and we recognize it, but unfortunately, it doesn't waive the GRE at this time.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, so this person is asking, do you accept online or physical exams for the GRE? So I know there's the at-home test and there's the GRE you take at the exam center. So the person is asking if you accept both.
Yep. Both
Okay.
is fine.
All right. Okay, great. So yeah, the next question, many of the individuals on the call are from, okay, we have many individuals on the call from financial background. This person would like to know what the percentage of admittance for those with pharma or medical background is into maybe a typical cohort, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, we're pretty agnostic when it comes to people's backgrounds. So if you have a pharma background, that's absolutely fine as long as you have a bachelor's degree and you have the work experience. We quite like people who've worked with pharma companies, or FMCG. There may be, so if you work, I don't know whether you have like Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer and people like that. If you've worked for actually a pharmaceutical company, it's pretty good. But we've had pharmacists in the program, I think, and who've worked in sort of the pharmacy or hospital sort of world have come into our program as well. Yeah. So again, we don't care. We don't care as long as you have sort of professional work experience and you have a bachelor's degree. We don't mind. That's the great thing about our MBA.
Yeah, and again, just to
All
chip
right.
in on that, I did not have a financial, like I worked in the technology space. I only happened to work within, I was working as a technology expert within the financial like environment. So not a financial expert at all. Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you. Yeah, so before we go on to read a few more questions, Anu, please unmute yourself and go ahead to ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm curious about something, right? I currently work with a national oil company in Nigeria, and I mean, of course, it's focused on energy, and I'm looking to go into energy consulting, right, post MBA. But it seems to me like everyone on the call has continued, the careers that they started pre-MBA. Everybody has started, or the works in the financial institution continued the only that worked in consulting is not a consultant. But I'm thinking of, because I'm looking to pivot from core energy, oil and gas to like consulting. Does Rotman give the opportunity to do that? And if it does, does it really accept people, those kind of opportunities? Right. So that's my question. Thank you.
I can answer that, or maybe
Okay.
my colleagues can share experiences they have from friends in the program who've made complete career changes. I mean, obviously, we talked about Dota, and you can actually even see her on the picture here on the brochure. She worked in legal services and is now in consulting. So our poster, our poster student or alumni did exactly what you've mentioned, is a complete career change and moved into consulting. So yes, it can happen. Our program by design is to help people. Can we promise you it? We can't promise anything, because I will never promise anything in life. It's really unfair. But I would say our track record and our data shows us that it's doable. But maybe my colleagues can really share some better examples.
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on that. It's possible in terms of recruiting. Say for example, I recruited with finance, but I had lots of people with non-finance background that also, competed for the same positions, and they did really well because the school provided the resources from the start. Immediately you join, some of the conversations are, what career path do you want to, and you are encouraged strongly to join clubs on the career path that you want to go to. So for example, we had an engineer, who wanted to do investment banking, one of my classmates. So he joined the Rotman Finance Association, and he put in all of the efforts. So it's not just to want to pivot, but you also want to be ready to put in all of the efforts. One thing that work in Canada a lot is networking, which I know is something that we are not very familiar with in Nigeria. So you want to come in, put in all of the work, network. And for this same person I was talking about, he was successful. There were about a few spots for investment banking, but he had never done finance before. And he got one of these spots because he put in all of the efforts. So what I can tell you is that Rotman will provide all of the support, all of the resources for you, all of the guidance, and you also put in all of the work, and you put in the effort, and you have that strong chance of pivoting. We've had lots of cases.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that while obviously financial services is always going to be a strength for any MBA program you do anywhere in North America, because there's lots of jobs in that space, and that is an area where and consulting, where it's still a very common and traditional MBA path. I really want to emphasize that this program is for everybody, of the path that you want to take, right? So you have people like Io, who's not a finance guy. Yes, you can sometimes work within that bigger financial services industry in tech, in product management, marketing, data analytics. But we'd have, a lot of students who are looking to, like I said, work across industries. We have people working in healthcare, real estate, e-commerce, consumer packaged goods, and then you've got the marketing, innovation. It is a total mixed bag. But of course, the consulting and finance areas still recruit quite heavily from MBA programs. But don't limit yourselves. We really don't want you to limit yourselves when you come here. There is lots of great opportunities.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very
Um,
much.
yeah, thank you very much. So if you have questions, please feel free to indicate by raising your hands. So yeah, we have some other questions here. Someone is asking, is there any in-state rate for residents of Ontario?
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
Okay, the person said, is there any in-state rate for residents of Ontario? Did you get
Yeah,
that? So I guess the
no.
person is asking
Something to do
about,
with something to do with rates in Ontario?
yes,
Interest rates?
in-state.
No, I guess the person is
Instant.
actually trying to ask about
Okay.
if there's a scholarship is, I mean, the tuition fee is reduced for PR, like the permanent resident.
Residents of Ontario.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Sorry, I'm sorry about that. So yes, if you are a permanent resident of Canada, right? So if you're already living in Ontario, as a permanent and you're not on a work permit or a study permit, yes, you would pay what we call domestic fees. So that's 92,000. So it's like a $50,000 tuition reduction if you either are with your permanent residency, which some of our students from Africa have got their PR or permanent residency, and then they travel to Canada, so they don't need a study permit. You pay domestic fees, right? You don't have to have lived here or be a citizen. So if any of you are on that path on this call and you're hoping to have that as what you use to enter the country, then you would pay domestic fees. However, if you're living in Ontario but you're on a work permit or a study permit, then no, you have to be a citizen or permanent resident, but there is no requirement for you to have lived here previously. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah.
thank you. So there's a question here for those with chartered CIBN, that's for Chartered Bankers Certification. Does the GRE waiver apply as well? So I think you
No.
you touched on that already, so we can, yeah. Okay,
But I would emphasize again, put it in your application because it will still have value. It will
yeah.
still give you added points, right? So again, we're not dismissing it. It's great. It will give you points. It might even help you in the job market when you're here. But unfortunately, you still have to write the GRE or the GMAT. Yeah,
GRE.
yeah.
All right. So this person is asking, I think the questions are directed to the current students. How did you all go about writing your essays? The spike factor application essay is very different from the other application essays I've seen. So just wanted to know if there are any tips from you. The spike factor application. So maybe anyone can go.
Yeah, yeah, I can touch on that. So in terms of spike
Okay.
factors, what Rotman is looking at is something that makes you unique. We want you to emphasize like your key strengths. It could be in different areas. If, for instance, for someone that has a strong academic background and feel they can excel here, that's something to highlight, talk about those strong academic background. It could be leadership. If you feel you have a strong leadership skills, the school is big on like leadership skills as well. You can emphasize that. It could be the opportunity to like you have experience working in a diverse team or in a multicultural team. That's something to highlight. So it's just basically something that you feel are your strengths, if I'm to put it that way, or something that makes you stand out. Yeah, you can highlight that.
I would
All
say,
right. Okay.
yeah, there's no real rules around our admissions essay. So yeah, I would say just use it as it's a creative component. Tell us your story. That's kind of really what we're interested. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so this person is asking, given the advised average GRE range, or GRE score, which is 320, is a score of 3 then acceptable for admission purpose? I mean, I think you mentioned that already.
Yeah, I mean it would meet our minimum requirements, but it's gonna have some impact on scholarships. So that would
mm,
just to be aware, right? If you're looking for the highest scholarship possible, you know, 310 is not going to be as strong as say a 320 or 330. That's just, and that would be, I would say that would apply to any MBA program you're applying to. So again, it could get you an offer, but will it give you enough of a scholarship that's going to make it work for you? So those would be sort of questions we would ask you as an applicant. Yeah, to think about, just to sort of have that as kind of just, again, it's not the only thing that determines scholarships, but it's you know, the kind of, I always say to candidates, the academic component, which is your bachelor's degree and your GRE, really is still a very important part of our consideration because you're applying to an academic program. So you have to sort of take a step back and say to yourself, is this going to be good enough for what I personally want? If money's no object, so may be fine. But I suspect, you know, all of us are probably looking for some scholarship to help reduce the tuition burden. So I would say, you know, you might want to rethink that a 310. But it is admissible, I would say, at Rotman. Yeah.
Okay. Got that. Thank you. So there's another question. What are the chances for candidates who don't have great undergraduate scores, but with great work experience and a strong MSc result?
It's okay. Yeah, I think if your GRE or your GMAT, or maybe you've got or something like that, ACCA, and good work experience definitely helps. Definitely helps. I mean, that would be the same as going back to the 310 GRE, right? You may have a great bachelor's degree. You know, you have you're an A student, but you didn't, your GRE just wasn't great on the day when you took the test. So again, we look at everything holistically, but again,
Yeah.
it's still going to have an impact. And it goes back to exactly the same response I gave to the previous question about the GRE. I would say the answer would be exactly the same. It could have an impact. Yeah.
Okay. So it's about the overall profile, ultimately.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, I think someone else had their hands raised, but maybe we've answered the question. So Gbemisola, I think please just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Ife. Thank you so much, Chris, for the session today. Okay, when you were talking about the waiver or the question on the GRE score and how it affects scholarship, for someone that's going to ask for a waiver because of the CFA level 3, how does that affect the level of scholarship the person will get?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you apply with a waiver like a CFA, please remember that will, you know, we've done some work on the back end to say, well, okay, we have to look at a CFA and go, if they were to take a GMAT, what would that be the equivalent of? Or if they were to do a GRE, what would that be the equivalent of? And the same with the CFA too. So it's not going to have obviously, we have to be certain that anyone who applies with a waiver is not being penalized, right? Because they haven't got a GRE. So if you've got the CFA too, that would easily be equivalent to you know, probably a 325, 26. Again, it's not an exact science. And if you've got the CFA 3, you know, it's more equivalent to a 330 plus GRE, right? So we make sure that, you know, there is no, it's not going against you because you haven't written the GRE. So again, we have a pretty sophisticated admissions process where we make sure that, like I said, for people who do have designations that are not recognized in Canada, they're still recognized in addition to your GRE. And the same with, you know, if you're a CFA charter holder and you've written a GRE anyway because another school you're applying to insists on it, please submit it. It's never going to do you any harm, but you're not going to be punished if you meet one of our waivers, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. So we have a few more questions. I don't know. Can we still take like 2-3 questions? Is that fine?
I'm okay with
Chris,
that. Yeah.
everyone. All right.
Another 5 minutes or so would be great.
Okay. So someone is asking, does building a tech startup as an entrepreneur in the UK or an impact-driven organization in Nigeria help score more points to gain admission and a scholarship?
Yeah, why not? We love entrepreneurs in our program. So, yep, just showcase to us what you've done and the impact it's had. If there's any numbers associated with that, any data you can provide in your resume. We love entrepreneurs in this program. Great fit for the CDL that we talked about. So, absolutely. I have worked with students or candidates before, and maybe my colleagues know some already in the program whose primary experience before coming to Canada was in the sort of either the social impact space or within entrepreneurship, or they might have just been working in like really small startups, but they were sort of still working in that space. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So this person is asking, what are the funding options for permanent residents in Canada in terms of student loans and scholarships?
So if you're a permanent resident, you're still entitled to a scholarship. You just apply like everybody else, and it's merit based, so no change whatsoever. I guess the upside for you is the initial tuition isn't as high. And then again, as I think Maurice explained it very clearly, if you are a permanent resident of Canada, and I think if you've lived here for at least 12 months and you have a decent credit rating with a local bank, they might then give you a student loan or a student line of credit without the cosigner. A lot of it will depend on your credit history and how long you've lived here. So permanent residents do have a little more choice when it comes to student loans, but a lot of it will depend on how long you've lived here and the credit rating you have with your current Canadian bank. But if you're a permanent resident moving directly from Ghana, Nigeria, wherever, and that's kind of the visa you're using or the to get into the country, you probably will still, if I'm, and Maurice, I think again was very clear, if you don't have family or friends here, you're still probably going to have to use Empower or Prodigy until maybe your second year. So then when you pay your second year fees, if you've been a resident of Ontario for 12 months, you can apply for something called OSAP, which is our provincial government student loan program. So you may have options to help fund your second year fees because you'll have been a resident here for a year. So again, it's case by case. I would say whoever asking that question, you should be emailing me and setting up a one-on-one conversation because that's very specific to one person. Also gave us
Yeah.
some pretty good sort of funding options. Yeah, everyone has very different circumstances, so that's why we encourage the one-on-one conversations. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, so the last question for this session, this person is asking, are there opportunities for exchange programs with other schools?
Yep. Any of my colleagues have any friends who went on exchange? They don't have to be from Africa. Do you have any friends who went on exchange?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have a couple of friends that are currently on the exchange program. Most people take the exchange during fall. I have people in Singapore. I have friends in, Taiwan, UK, just any Germany. You can decide to, go on an exchange program to whatever, you do. You do your interview for the exchange thing right in your first year, and then you already know where you're going to be. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for exchange program. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and just to add to that, there are opportunities for short-term programs in other countries, right? I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona, Spain, for a 1 week short-term program. So we have lots of those opportunities. Currently, we have I think we have one in Singapore, Costa Rica, Germany. So there's always the opportunity.
Yes. Thanks,
oh,
guys. Yeah,
great.
there's a lot of opportunities to have and do something outside of Canada, even if you can't commit to going on exchange which effectively for one semester in your second year. But I mentioned some of the countries that our students go to. You're effectively exchange for one semester when you're doing your electives, right? You can't go on exchange in first year. But I think Maurice's example, I would say, is more common for most of our students, is they look at some shorter term options to go overseas without committing to like moving your life somewhere for 4 months. But you're welcome to do it, of course.
All right. Great. That's good to hear. Thank you very much. So we've come to the end. We don't have any more questions. We've come to the end of the session. So is there anything else you want to add? Chris and everyone, Maurice, Ajake, Ayotunde. I don't know if Onye is still on the call, but just like very briefly, your final, remarks or tips for everyone on the call.
I'll let my
Yeah, so
colleagues go
I'll just
first.
start. Okay. So for me, I just want you to know that despite what you get from Rotman for entrance scholarship, there are a lot of scholarship applications when you get here. So do not worry about that. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to get more funding when you get to Rotman. And during your application, try to be your authentic self, tell your story. And then there's a part where they say awards and achievements. Put your awards and achievements there. Rodman loves to see that. They want to see your achievements. That strengthens your application. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my final remark would be, just put in your best application, blow your own trumpet, right? No one is going to blow your trumpet for you. So whatever achievement you have, whatever thing you've done, based on what Chris has said, everything that is on the website, you can find a lot of things. Just put it there, like ensure that you put in your best application. Because in the end, you can only submit to one application, right? So put in your best application and then just expect the best.
Yeah.
And I'll just add just something minor, alluding to what we said earlier. Feel free to tell your story, right? Don't put yourself under too much pressure with the application. Feel free to tell your story, how your story has helped you navigate challenges in life and made you a better person or made you prepared for the journey ahead.
Okay. I think I'll echo everything my colleague said. I think for me, of course, I would say hopefully you've been in, maybe this is an opportunity to rethink location. Maybe you've thought, oh, what's sure about Canada? I'm going to consider Canada now. Seems like a great place. It is a great place. Toronto is a wonderful city. And I think, everyone has emphasized how easy it is to move here if you're coming from another part of the world. So I would always say, really take Canada seriously as an option. We're very open. It's very easy to stay here if you choose to. Lots of great opportunities. And yeah, I really look forward to hopefully hearing from some of you. And please let us know that, you've come through City of Lane so we can get more of an idea of also people who are interested in talking to us, and we can feed that back to City of Lane too as well. So this slide that's been up now for about 20 minutes, that's the best way. Take a screenshot of it. It's the best way to connect with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Those are great tips and advices. It was great